Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos and welcome to my guide to Tindral Sage Swift. Took a little while to get this boss killed. Very, very hard boss still. The recent round of nerfs definitely helped make it a lot more accessible, but it is still very hard. So basically the TLDR of this fight, this is going to be a long video. We're going to pause a lot. A lot happens in a very short time on this encounter. The boss is going to start off with Fire Beam, and this is very similar to the lower difficulties, except it casts it more often. And those beams will one-shot you. They do 1.6 million fire, so you need a big defensive to live it, like a big defensive. The mushrooms here, these spawn in a very predictable-ish pattern. They actually always spawn north, south, east, west from the boss whenever he casts them. And you need to alternate which ones you're soaking as the tanks. And anybody else needs to make sure they don't stand in them. If you miss a red soak, it does like 300k to the raid. If you miss a green soak, it wipes the raid. So you can get this weak aura that I have in the middle here. That's from the Northern Sky weak aura pack if you're a tank. And that will be the mushroom thing there. Just go into custom options and choose which one you're soaking first, and it'll give you a really nice countdown. Most of the other weak auras, we started progression on this before the liquid pack came out, but I would recommend probably just using that. Or the Echo pack or whatever, but get your guild all on the same page of using one weak aura pack or the other. And yeah, so outcome now dispels are happening during this fire beam and mushroom time. So 4 people are going to get affected by this fiery growth. And the rule for this is that it will always pick exactly one ranged healer if you have any. We have 2 ranged healers. They're both priests, right? The other 2 healers we have are a Holy Paladin and a Mistweaver, so they aren't eligible targets for these dispels. They always target ranged players and always exactly one healer. So what you want to do is you want to, within the room, and you can kind of copy our positioning here or liquids or echoes or whatever, but you want to have an idea of where 1, 2, 3, and 4 are going to dispel, and you want a weak aura that will assign 1, 2, 3, and 4, with 1 always being that ranged healer. And then 4 tends to be something like a hunter. Mages tend to go last. And then stuff like evokers, warlock can be in the middle. That's usually the sequence you'd want. And most weak auras will do that automatically. And the reason for that is that 3 and 4 are needing to tank this debuff for quite a while. And they also will often need to like freedom themselves or just break themselves out of a route, which hunters and mages can do at very low cost. But since you know it's always going to target one of the 2 priests as well, the priests can be standing in position, and you can dispel one almost instantly, right? So you can see here, let's play this again as we're getting through this first overlap. Falling Star also does a bunch of raid damage, and those swirlies will kill you if you get hit by too many of them, so good luck. That's also going on during this 5-second window. Dispels come out and instantly, right? The dispels have come out in less than a second later. We dispel number 1, which is our priest, and then we have number 2 is going to be our evoker here, and he's going to get dispelled as soon as the CD goes away. So the way it works is you have a debuff, and you'll get killed if you do 2 dispels within that debuff window. So you wait for the debuff to go off, and then you dispel 2. And then we actually have Life Cocoon going on number 3, I think, here, and like Sack or something on number 4. You have to, externals are great to throw on 3 and 4, as are freedoms. So we have freedoms assigned. You can see Blessing of Freedom on both of these players for 3 and 4. Now the next thing that's going to happen here, so again, let's rewind the old clock here. Sorry about the quality, by the way. Let me see if I can improve that. Yeah, I can. I've just been having it on low quality for fun. It's not going to be this bad for the rest of the video. The boss will create these feathers. I was rambling during the time that it was getting back to that. So during this mushroom phase, the boss will create feathers. The boss will create 6 feathers now. That was a nerf as of today to this fight, as of the time of recording this. And the way that it works is 1 will always be in front of the boss, 1 will always be behind the boss, and then there will be ones front left, front right, back right. So what we were doing on this boss is having a DPS player taunt the boss so that those positions would be reliable every time and would be the exact same. I don't recommend that for a new guild progressing this. We were only doing that because we were used to doing that, because that's how you had to do it back when this boss was pre-nerf. But if you're coming in and you're starting prog post-nerf, I would just let the tank keep tanking it, and you kind of just want to get a general idea because you need to send 4 people up with feathers. Usually 1 or 2 will spawn in the fire and the dispels, and you want to kind of assign, okay, this person will get the farthest left, this person will get the mid left, this person will get the farthest right, this person will get the mid right, and then sometimes there will be like a true middle one right on the boss's tail that just nobody can grab if there's only 1 in the fire and 1 behind the boss. I think that's probably the easiest way for a new guild to prog this. If that doesn't work for some reason, you can always have a DPS player taunt. The boss doesn't really auto during these, except for at one point during P2 when it randomly does. So it's safe for a DPS player to taunt. And yeah, you need to assign 2 groups of 4 because the feather job will give you a debuff that will wipe you, or that will kill you if you try and soak a bomb in the second set after if you don't give it enough time between them. So 2 groups of 4 players. You can swap around a little bit who's in what. We played around with a little bit of that to get more optimal meta uptime or something. We switched it back eventually, but you can do that between the platforms if you want to. But we ended up with just group 1 and group 2 for the whole duration of the fight, and that worked for us. If you have fewer than 8 melee, because these should be your melee DPS assigned to do this, then we have a problem. If you're trying to do this boss with fewer than 8 melee, you are going to need to set up a system of backups for that last person doing the job, because whoever you assign could be busy getting dispelled at this time or in some of the future times. So you probably want, if you only have 7 melee, you probably want 1 primary ranged to be that last slot, right? And then you probably want a backup for them and maybe a second backup. If you have 6 or fewer melee, then you're going to be really in for a rough time with this feather mechanic. And honestly, my advice would be get more melee if you are trying to do this. It's a lot easier with 8 melee. 7 is doable. It's been done. I think Liquid did it, but it's much simpler if you have fewer. If you have fewer ranged. If you only have 8 melee, or if you have exactly 8 or more, rather. Okay, so yeah, feathers are coming out. Again, tanks are still doing this this job here. Then we get our roots. So again, we've had to freedom person 3 and 4 on the Dispel order. Everybody else is under the boss, and we use the AMZ here for the roots. And this is the roots on this difficulty. If you break them with anything like a freedom or an immunity, anything except for being a Dragon Rider, which basically lets you immune it for free, which, by the way, those 2 extra bonus feathers might be valuable for people to just pick up to mean that they effectively get a freedom. That could be something worth looking into if you're playing a comp that is low on freedoms, because freedoms are really valuable resources on this fight. But yeah, so anybody who does break a vine that way, instead of just by killing it, will spawn a treant. These treants aren't the end of the world, but they do a pulsing raid damage, like 20k per tick every second. So you do want to kill them quickly, and I'm always here looking to death grip in the treants that are spawned on that 4th Dispel target, ideally instantly, because when the Dragon Riders land after going and soaking their flare bombs, which you're going to want, those flare bombs are consistent positions, you're going to want to assign each person to get the same one each time on each platform as well. When they land, they do a boatload of damage to any trees or vines they hit. Now, if somebody is trapped in a vine for a really long time, if they end up needing a freedom or something, if they end up breaking out of their vine late, the treant that spawns will have less max HP as well, based on the HP of the vine when it's broken. So it's often fine if you need to do that. Like if your vine's at 20% and you break it with a freedom, the resulting treant will not have much health. But if you do it at full health, it will be a fairly beefy treant that needs to get under the boss so it can get AoE down. So then after that, the boss does another fire beam. This is the fire beam that will kill a lot of people if they haven't been broken out of their vines yet. We move over to the side because the boss is going to do another fire beam. And each time the boss casts fire beams, it also casts them on the opposite side of the room as well. So now we do a really big move, and we have this X marker over here to give us a rough idea of where we want to get to. And this will sometimes be really nasty. Sometimes you're going to have 7 beams just intersecting where you want to be, and there's just nowhere safe you can go. So what we do here is we use a bunch of abilities, a bunch of freedoms on a bunch of targets. Hunters are disengaging themselves and roar of freedoming somebody else. Our paladin's freedoms are back because the Holy Paladin's used Autumn on himself, and the Paladin presses his very early so that it will be up in time for this spot. You know, rogues have Vanish or something. Tanks don't get targeted. Priests get freedom and stuff. And actually, we bop one of the priests as well so they don't get healing threat and killed by the trees that spawn out here by where the priests are. And we're in a darkness where we kind of have the whole raid here because you do AoE damage around you when you drop vines, but usually it's worth it to stack 3 or 4 people on top of each other so that you can get a nice tight stack. It's very important because if you have somebody more than like 10 yards away from the boss, their vines aren't going to get killed. And even in this spot, it's kind of annoying for trees to be spawning too far away from the boss. This is where we use Mass Grip. I was using A-Bomb Limb here as well, and I'd recommend it probably for Prog for quite a while, but I moved it off to just get more boss damage eventually. But yeah, Mass Grip here, pretty good, right? Getting as many of the trees under boss as you can. And then again, single grips on trees. just get them grouped up, and you're dodging beams here. You need those freedoms so that you can dodge the beams. Anybody who doesn't have a freedom ideally has like an immunity, right? DHs, we try and freedom them, but if we don't have one, like if we need to use one on somebody else because somebody calls a freedom, then the DH presses Nether instead in that spot. Then we get another Mass Root Feather combo while mushrooms are going on. So this is group 2 going up with their feathers, and everybody else getting under the boss, getting rooted. Again, I'm gripping in a Stray Treant. And then we get another Fire Beam, and this one we just gateway out of towards the middle of the room, and we just hit the boss. We blast the boss with as much damage as you can here. 74 is a very good number. 75 is a fine number to have as the boss is casting Typhoon. And then everybody needs to grab a feather. I end up going on a little adventure this pull, but it's fine. And then you need to collect 10 of these orbs on the journey here. I think there are 11 total, so you need to get almost all of them. I went on this slow left path that it's about a second slower than the main path, but somebody has to fly it. And it may as well be me because healers need to get there fast so that they can start setting up for the big intermission healing. So we have tanks generally. I mean, also we can survive if we're really slow for a couple of ticks of the supernova. But you can see I still landed about the same time the boss does. We hit our lust here. This is a damaged lust. There is an alternative healer lust that I will tell you when that is, which we used for most of progression, and which both Echo and Liquid used to kill this boss. So that is a option for you as well, but we like doing damage because we like skipping mechanics at the end of boss fights whenever we can. So now the second phase starts. We have a world marker for where the first Priest Dispel is going to be over here, and then we head over towards that marker, and you can do a slightly different movement here. Ours is kind of not really copied from any other guild, but you can copy exactly what Liquid and Echo did movement-wise in this phase, or what we did, whatever you want. Just do the same thing every pull. And our idea here is we're kind of just building a wall and then moving it forward. So we do just a straight line of 4 Dispels, and then we scoot it forward every time we're doing Dispels. But let's talk about the mechanical overlap that we're going to see here first. So first off is Falling Star, just raid damage and swirlies to dodge. And then the boss is doing tank mushrooms, so the boss is not going to be mobile here. And then we have those Dispels. Again, instant Dispel on 1, which is the Priest. And then we have Feathers coming out. And this is Feather Group 1 going up. Everybody else gets under boss. I'm again death gripping in the Far Treants on 4 and 3 of the Dispels, bringing them under boss. And then it's time for us to soak the seeds. Now, I have a big weak ore that says soak or else. That one we made because, again, we got to this boss before any weak ores were public for it. But I think there are ones in the Liquid and Echo packs as well that can just yell at you to soak until you have soaked 1 seed. The boss will spawn 16 seeds. You have 20 players in your raid. Each player can soak exactly 1 seed. If you soak a second seed, you wipe the raid. If a seed stays on the ground for 5 seconds, it wipes the raid as well. So you have to spread out here, and what you want to do, we kind of called it Priest side, because our Priests are always getting dispelled over here, and then Mage side, because Mages are often the last target to be dispelled, and that kind of let us avoid calling it left and right, because some people are looking at the boss from different directions. So Priest side is over here by this purple marker, Mage side is over here, and everybody kind of has an idea of where they're supposed to be. Tanks are just trying to get ones that are close to boss. Priests are trying to get nice and far out ones in the Priest side. Other people, Demon Hunters, are trying to Fel Rush out and quickly grab one as it's spawning. Mages are looking to blink at the last second and save the raid by identifying one that is going unsoaked. Mage is also, I think, responsible for if one spawns in the fire, which these seeds will prefer not to spawn in existing fire, but particularly if you dispel slowly, they can spawn where fire is growing into, and that can be a big problem. So having somebody look for if there's a seed in a fire is a very valuable thing to do. But yeah, you can see here, as soon as we break out these roots, everybody's prio is just quickly spread, look for a swirly, plant in it, and grab it, and then back under boss. And that is, it will not look that clean for you for your first several hundred attempts of that, but that's how it's supposed to look. Then we have another set of Dispels, and we're moving the boss, and this is where you'd lust. You can lust right here at like 3 to 303, somewhere in that range, if you want a healer lust instead of a DPS lust. We have another set of Dispels coming out, and then it's just spreading for seeds. So there's no roots going on right now, but there will be roots soon. So this one, the goal is to soak fast and then get in fast. This is Darkness, Barrier, and AMZ, and we have our Priest stay out. One of our Priests is staying out and getting freedomed. The other one is in and getting freedom to run out so that they can get dispelled instantly because there's about to be another set of Dispels here. But yeah, everybody else is under. I'm again gripping in the Stray Treant, and we are just nuking them all down. And Then we have another set of Dispels while tank mushrooms are going on. A little note about the tank mushrooms. You will soak each of the 4 positions exactly once if you are doing this tank job. So you can use that to remember, right? I got this one green first and this one red first. And so I know this is going to be the next green and this is going to be the next red based on the situation we're in right now. And I can already be pre-planning that. The diagonal move is always the longest move. Movement speed amps can be nice to get there fast. You can always do it without a movement speed amp, but if you're slow to react, that can you can sometimes miss your mushroom and wipe the raid. So try not to do that. That's something you want to stop happening early in progression. So then we get another set of feathers, and again, it's feathers into roots, and these just go into a barrier under the boss, while our dragon riders are going and getting their stuff. Somebody's freedom there, Dispel target number 4, so I just grip in their tree, and we quickly break all those roots, go and get all of those seeds, and then we're just nuking the boss as much as we can here. 45 is a very, very good number here. This is the lowest we've ever seen this boss at this point, a sub 44 as it's casting Typhoon. We've never seen the boss this low before. That is, if this boss is 2 or 3% higher, you can still totally kill the boss. In fact, if it's even somewhat higher than that, it's still doable. So I have a very funny route here where I have to go to the left and up to get these orbs. Most other people don't need to grab orbs, but if you just have the tanks grabbing these ones around the back, you will be only at 9 stacks. Somebody has to look out for one more green orb that's kind of close to the platform and off towards the tree. We had 2 DPS that were kind of assigned to make sure we grabbed that. Let me see if I can... It's like... I don't know. It's just off the platform. If you only have 9 stacks there, look for it during a wipe and then assign 1 or 2 DPS to go and grab it. So this one, again, Supernova cast going on. One thing worth noting on both platforms is that this boss loves to drop threat, and it drops threat about 1 second, a second and a half, 2 seconds after finishing a Supernova cast. So you can see I don't even have threat on the boss right now, but I'm not bothering taunting. And the boss ends the Supernova, turns and faces you for a while, and then after like 2 seconds, he will become tauntable. Or he'll start attacking and stuff. So I try and taunt a little bit before that because threat has dropped entirely. Threat drop comes out from the boss. It is something that you want to look out for. And so I taunt the boss and start running, but I have very low aggro because the boss has completely dropped threat. So I hit it with another death grip here actually to make sure that I have threat if it's at all looking like I'm losing it. And then we're bringing it sort of towards the edge of the room. You can put down a world marker here. I just remembered where I was going based on the ground pattern, but you can do this however you want. You just want to move it most of the way to the edge of the room. Then there's a falling star into feathers. I would recommend you have 2 people that don't normally get feathers here grab front and back so that they're immune to this mass root. We weren't doing that because, again, we're not used to that, and we'd progressed the other version of this fight that only had 4 feathers, but that's something that could make this fight a little bit easier for you. Those people won't get targeted by this mass root, which should be nice. And again, these are just going to get broken out by the people flying in, but the fire beam comes out as well, so we need to dodge that, and we dodge towards the edge of the room. Then the boss enters tree form, and it creates itself a nice set of seeds. We actually had a death there to the fire beam. That's okay, just instantly res that, not to worry. And again, we have to soak these seeds. So the reason we move to the edge there is to force those seeds all to spawn towards mid, because they won't spawn on the very edge of the room. Then we have a set of Dispels going on, while there's another set of mushrooms happening, but this is a nice little breather in the fight for the most part. As a Blood Death Knight, you can tank this boss for the entirety of the encounter, pretty much. But you can also, I like to let the other tank taunt for a little while here, so that I'm not floating a really high stack count. But he never taunts in the other phases. I just hold the boss for all of P1, all of P2, and then he holds it until I drop stacks after our DPS taunt here. But if you're not doing a DPS taunt, you could just have the other tank taunt for a little bit in this period until the Blood Decay drops their stacks. But yeah, the damage isn't really threatening to Blood Decays on this fight. So then we get another set of feathers and another mass root. Again, under boss. Very simple mechanic that we've seen in P2, and then into seeds. Again, 5 seconds to get these. Grab 1 seed each and get back under boss. And then the boss kind of AFKs for a bit. For the only time in the fight, the boss AFKs for like 5 seconds, which is nice. Then we get this great overlap. So this is going to be roots into Dispels into Fire Beam. So for this set of Dispels, unlike the other ones that coincide with roots, you instead want to use your freedoms on 1 and 2 rather than on 3 and 4. 3 and 4 will get broken out in time, and they just stay in the group. 1 is always going to be one of these priests, so we just always freedom both priests, and I grip in their trees. 2 gets a freedom from, I think, our prop pally. And then 3 and 4 just stay in the raid here for a while, and they'll get dispelled later. We want to dispel 1 instantly, which is going to be out there bang, instantly dispelled, and then our priests come back in. And then 2, as soon as 2 gets the freedom here, moves off into this little pocket over here and gets dispelled over there. And then once these vines are broken, the rest of us are hitting this gateway and are getting out of town. And then 3 and 4, we wait for a little while because Falling Star is coming. That's damage. Everybody's low here. This is a great spot for health pots and health stones if you have them as well. And then we dispel 3 and 4 for the next little bit. We're dodging these fire beams and kind of trying to make sure the boss isn't too close to the fire, but you have a lot of room here. And then we get another set of feathers. This is group 2, I think, back on the feathers, or maybe group 1 back on the feathers. I think it's group 1. We get another set of roots, and we use freedoms, I think, on the priests only here, and everybody else is trying to be under boss. And we get those trees taken care of, and then it's into soaks. Soaks into dispels. Again, this all happens much faster than you would think for a regular boss fight, but we're less than 7 minutes into this fight. And so yeah, you want to finish getting these soaks. The soaks do like 150k, I think, when you actually soak a seed. So the dispel targets here do need to watch their health as they are doing those soaks. And again, it's a very big time for stuff like sack. I think we use a spell ward on somebody in this set as well. Life cocoons, all those sorts of things are being thrown on these people. And again, we're just dispelling 1 as fast as we can. And then 2, 3, 4 are just going out wherever they can, getting dispelled. Everybody else under boss, 3 and 4 are getting freedomed. And we're gripping in the trees that they'd spawn. And we're just killing these. Don't overcommit CDs on this set because you don't have anything super pressing going on for a little while. The only thing that you need to beat is you need to start running once this fire beam comes out. But you see we beat that by several seconds and we weren't committing CDs to it because you're going to want CDs for this next set. So this is the end of the fight. The boss casts feathers. We move the boss all the way over to the edge of the room here. So feathers are funny because they can't spawn outside on this outer ring, which, by the way, this is true on all the platforms. If you stand out on this outer ring, you see where this graphic is for where the outer ring is and where the feathers aren't going. If you stand past that, you take fire damage and it kills you pretty quick. So you actually can't stand in the outermost part of the room, which is fun. Sometimes the space in the room is pretty constricted, especially the second roots of P1. That happens there pretty often for your first few pulls. So we get the flare bombs here. Again, this is just 6 feathers. And these, we just called this a YOLO set, where the people in this set kind of needed to YOLO and get one of them because they weren't in predictable locations. But just try and get one on the regular side of the boss where you usually would. You can see all of them going there. And then the people doing this feather job get to go across the room while the fire beams are going across the room. Those fire beams are infinitely vertical, and they'll one-shot you if you hit them. So we had people using immunities before mounting up if they had them. Otherwise, just pressing big defensives before mounting up if they had them, so that they could get to their flare bombs quick, because getting that extra damage from the Dragon Riders on the roots here is very valuable. But again, we're also just using every single freedom that we have for this set because roots are coming, but so are these beams that are going to one-shot us, right? So we have a spot here that's kind of safe-ish, but we instantly break a bunch of these vines, and then the remaining ones, we use all of our big AoE raid CDs to break out the vines as fast as we can. And then this is it. This is the part of the fight that you either win or you lose. You get a final set of seeds, and your Dragon Riders are potentially still busy Dragon Riding. So basically, you're going to have 16 seeds and 16 Raiders that need to each soak exactly one of them. So we do that here. You can see some Dragon Riders are landing. We actually had somebody die before the seeds, and then I rezzed him, and he was able to soak one. So that gave us... The boss spawns 1 less seed per dead player up to a point. So it's actually a pretty forgiving mechanic to have players dead for. So that actually kind of gave us a bonus seed removed from the fight. But yeah, then you get this set of dispels. Now the boss here is at 2.6%. I think the call should be if it's over 3%, do these dispels. Otherwise, just keep them alive. Because if the dispel players die, if more than one of them dies within 3 seconds, it wipes the raid. But here we just didn't dispel, target the boss, kill the boss before the next set of roots would come out, and that is all there is to it. The next set of mechanics would be roots. And if you get those roots, but you've done the dispels, you just want to ignore the roots and kill the boss, because you're not doing the next like roots into feathers into. There's some nonsense that happens in the next 30 seconds of this fight. So try and kill the boss before then. That is, I think, everything I could remember about Mythic Tindral. This boss took 420 pulls for my guild to defeat. It was extremely difficult. It still is extremely difficult post-nerf, but it is doable and it's really rewarding. It's such a great fight. This is one of the most rewarding kills that I've done, including end bosses. The feeling of killing this one is really, really good right now. So If you are in a guild that is going to attempt this in this state, my best of luck to you. It is something special. And if you are going to fight it, if you're watching this video in like a month's time, there's a good chance that several more sizable nerfs have hit on this boss. So things that I said here may be outdated. It may be substantially easier or different than it was when this was recorded. So yeah, do take a look at when this video is recorded. And if you're watching this in 2024, there's a good chance you're fighting a slightly different version of this fight. But I'm sure it'll still be challenging. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.